Hi, my name is Astrid,
I'm Jake.
and we're here to tell you about our new app, iCoach.
iCoach.
iCoach is designed based off research from some renowned psychologists like Dan Gilbert,
Dan Ariely,
Carol Dweck,
and other research we did. To begin the day, the app will ask you to set a goal for you. So it's going to be like a day goal. We'll also have like long-term goals, I guess. But every day we'll ask you for a short-term goal that you can achieve. This is like setting a deadline. And the goals can be easy as maybe take 5,000 steps a day to maybe complete a 2-hour workout with like heavy weights or something, which would be pretty hard. And the app will track these goals, or you can also just input it in there and say, oh, I already completed this goal. Type. The goal's in there, and the app will say, good job. And throughout the day, the app will remind you of your goal and tell you how close you are, how well you're doing, and it'll give you like positive, like just sayings to just try to keep you going. The psychology around this is pre-commitment and the deadline experiment, which was done by Ariely. The pre-commitment is making a commitment before you do something to give yourself self-control of what you're doing. So he had 3 classes. Each one, he told them, they had different deadlines for the papers. The first group could decide their own deadline. The second one had strictly enforced deadlines. And the third group had no deadline, so the papers just due at the end of the trimester or the semester in their case. The group that had tight deadlines actually performed the best, and the group that set their own deadlines, they did second best, and the group that didn't have any deadlines, they just didn't do that well, and they had the worst grades of all the 3 sections cumulatively. One of the features and functions of our app is going to be it's going to give you gifts on a variable ratio reinforcement after you complete your workout. So sometimes after your workout, you'll get a gift or a reward, or sometimes you won't. So it'll keep the participants not knowing whether they're going to gift and keep them coming back. Some of the gifts might be an extra exercise tip, or maybe a video from some of the professionals.
like Michael Phelps.
Yeah, or like
special tips.
The people from like The Biggest Loser or whatever. The psychology that backs this up is fixed and variable ratio reinforcement. And experiment that was done to prove this was a experiment by B.F. Skinner, and he used lab rats, and basically they would like pull a lever, and after X times a treat would come out, like food. So that was the reward, and that was the fixed ratio because they knew every time that they pulled the lever 5 times that a treat would come out. And the variable ratio reinforcement was when they didn't know when they were going to get the reward. So the rat would pull it like 5 times to get a reward. The next time they pulled it 5 times, they wouldn't get one. But then they'd pull it like 2 extra times, or they'd pull it 7 times in total, and they'd get a reward. And so they wouldn't know when they were going to get the reward, which kept them coming back. And the most surprising thing about this this experiment was that when the reward stopped coming, the fixed ratio group, so the ones that only pulled it 5 times, they knew when they were going to get their reward. After the reward stopped, and they realized that they weren't going to get any rewards after they pulled it 5 times. But the variable ratio reinforcement, they didn't know if the reward was coming or if it wasn't coming, so they just kept on pulling the lever and waiting for the reward to come, and it motivated them much more to keep pulling.
There are 2 stable motivators that we find in humans, and everybody has an aspect of each of these. But they're divided into the motive for success and a motive to avoid failure. And so success-oriented people are usually more accomplished and receive more praise for their successes. And then people who tend to avoid failure are less accomplished and tend to, feel less inclined to take on tasks because they want to avoid the feeling of embarrassment. And so actually there are some studies that show that people motivated for success will choose moderately difficult tasks, where people motivated to avoid failure will choose very easy tasks or very difficult tasks so that when they fail those, they don't feel as embarrassed. So Carol Dweck, a researcher at Stanford, actually did some research on growth mindset to figure out how people who are motivated to avoid failure can be encouraged to take on more difficult tasks. And this is actually exemplified in Khan Academy, how they encourage you when you don't succeed in all the questions to keep on learning, because these are skills that we can grow. So this is called growth mindset. And growth mindset is sort of encouraging people to view their abilities as a skill that they can work on rather than a fixed characteristic. So when it comes to working out, some people that are less athletically inclined might feel that they're just not athletes and they're not good at running. And so these people would be motivated to avoid failure by not taking on hard workouts. But by encouraging people to view their ability to work out, their endurance, their willpower, and their motivation as all these growing aspects of themselves, something they can build on, people will be more encouraged to keep working.
Another one of our features and functions is that people can input their personal information, like their age, their gender, their athletic level. So for me, I'm going to be a college swimmer next year. I'd put in like a college swimmer, not just like a recreational swimmer, just like swimming laps. And this is so the app can motivate you in the best way it can. The app will try to get to know you like a coach would get to know you. So you'll be able to choose your coach from like real life coaching specialists that will be like in our app and you can choose from. And the coaches that you can choose from will be limited a little bit based on the information you put in of your age, your gender, and your athletic level. So basically, that will affect who you can choose as a coach. This research is based on basically everybody is motivated differently, and a trusting relationship between a coach and an athlete will result in the most effort from that athlete. So if you put the most effort in, you should get positive results back. If the coach does not know the athlete well, then the athlete will not trust the coach. If the athlete feels that the motivation being given to him or her is not sincere or like good motivation, the motivation won't work. So knowledge of the athlete and having a trusting relationship and friendship between the coach and the athlete will allow the coach to understand what about their unique athlete will permit the most motivation and the best results from their athlete. When this happens, the activation point is triggered, and the activation point is a region of the athlete's persona that triggers the most effort. So it's just to get a relationship so you feel like you're doing this more than just for yourself, I guess.
So for our last features and functions, we're actually using social norms from Dan Ariely's work to encourage group workouts. So if we get people to pair up in groups by, connecting people through similar locations or through similar workout plans, we can get them to pre-commit to these things to each other. And so then using the social norm, with social norms, we encourage people more than market norms to work out.